3, 2, 1. My friend Mike Meade. We've had many conversations over the past year and a half of knowing each other.
We certainly have.
One of them, and kind of the only disappointing one I think I've had with you is JFK. You don't want me to believe that's a conspiracy. And it's the one I really hang on to, and you've debunked it and taken it apart and shredded it and thrown it back in my face and saying this is a bunch of bullshit. It was just Lee Harvey Oswald. Or at least it's not any of the crazy fun conspiracies that
I heard a really, really crazy fun one the other day. This is probably the ultimate JFK conspiracy. And I almost hate to bring this up because I'm sure somebody who's out there is just going to go, aha, that's it. There is actually somebody out there on the internet who has this whole conspiracy theory claiming that John F. Kennedy was murdered by his wife, Jacqueline. She shot him with a pistol that she was carrying in her purse, and everybody else in the limousine covered for her by going, "Oh my God, it came from over there!"
Like they pulled the "what's over there" thing as they she threw away the pistol or somebody snatched it from her. She wouldn't have been searched probably after the why would they pat her down, right?
Probably not.
That probably didn't happen. It would be a brilliant plan. You could see how it would work. Because they're not, her husband just got shot, head blown off. She's not the suspect. She's crying and in tears. And those Kennedys, they're all actresses, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so, maybe it's more plausible than we think.
Well, I think I just made a pretty decent point. They probably eliminated her as a potential suspect right off the bat.
I would assume so, yes.
Even with didn't she get brain goo? Did they still have the dress or something?
It's locked away somewhere. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
What's all this crap that Trump wants to take credit for releasing it, but what is all this JFK file stuff that's released? Do you know anything about that? Is that part of this? Jackie did it?
No, it's not. But the thing about the files being released actually has nothing to do with Trump. The files were scheduled to be released anyway.
Of course.
He's just taking credit for it.
Of course.
Like he's taking credit for the economy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But from what I haven't heard that there's anything explosive or
we would have heard something casually.
Yeah, I think the files are all. I think most of the stuff in the files has already been looked at by now.
I thought that there was some other stuff that was being released later this year.
I think so, yeah. And
by the way, Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
New Year, 2018. We did it.
Yes.
Somehow we're still here. Do you remember? You have conscious memories of being a real person alive on Earth in the 60s and 70s, right?
I do. I was a child, a very small child in the 60s, but I remember.
Can you imagine? The 2018 or 2020 or something like that must have come up in conversation at some point. How far away did that seem?
Well,
impossible, right?
I remember, in elementary school, our teacher saying, you'll all be alive in the year 2000. That was crazy enough. I turned 40 in the year 2000, and of course, when I was in third grade, 40 sounded ancient, and I thought, well, if I lived that long. But and speaking of the year 2000, remember Y2K?
I very much remember it. I was a freshman in college, and the internet was still such nobody knew what the hell it was then. I just knew you go on AOL, talk on Instant Messenger. That was it. Look up a couple web pages. But I had no idea that even at that point, our electrical grid, our entire power grid was run by these computers. That was the big fear, right?
Right.
That everything was going to turn off.
The computers were just going to go crazy, and everything in the world would shut down
because of a decimal place.
Right. You wouldn't be able to get into your ATM. You wouldn't be able to, do anything.
It was a legit panic. I remember I had no preparations because I was 18, and I just remember sitting there and being like, okay, sitting in my dorm room. Okay, let's see what happens. 3, 2, 1. I legit remember having feelings all right, I'm going to hear an explosion now. The power's going to go out. Nothing. And I was at a friend's house, and I left a little after midnight driving home, and I looked up, and all the red lights are working. So if the red lights are working, everything's okay. 2018, I remember, I can't remember the specific topic it was, but there was a topic saying that when I was in elementary school or whatever, a teacher said something about by the year 2018, this many people in the world, this many blah blah, whatever it is, whatever the thing was, and I remember thinking, oh my God, no, that's a different world, and then all of a sudden time just seems to skip.
I know.
I could think of that memory and then just fast forward it. Oh, we're here. Yeah. We're here about that time that we were talking about forever ago that seemed unreal.
Well, I think that's partly because when we were kids, people projected the future in such grandiose terms. You know, everybody would have their own flying saucer.
That was still the thing. Like as a kid in the 90s.
Yeah.
In the 80s and 90s, we were still talking about flying cars. Like we were
all going to live like the Jetsons. We'd all have robot maids in our homes, and we'd all have flying cars. And
but nobody ever explained to me how that would work.
Right.
Like that it was all going to be software based.
Yeah.
Like somehow it was like, everybody's going to have a robot. It's going to be like the Jetsons. Mm-hmm. What was her name? What's that chick's name on the Jetsons? The maid.
Rosie.
Ah!
Rosie the robot.
She was so good. So no one ever explained to me how that could potentially work. Like I just thought, you just make a robot, you design it, and then it's just going to have gears and a bunch of shit, and it's going to determine how to fix things. I couldn't even think at that point how what AI really was, mm-hmm. and how it would grow from the internet, and our computers would turn into an AI.
Right.
And you see these crazy ass robots they have now, right?
Oh yeah,
dude. Like
we're fairly getting fairly close to Rosie here.
Well, we have self-driving cars. That's pretty much Rosie.
Yeah. The idea of a self-driving car terrifies me. I don't think it's going to work.
Why?
Why not? I think the technology for self-driving cars will work, but what American is going to want a self-driving car? Americans freaking love to drive, Doug. They want to get behind that wheel. They want to hold the wheel. They want to stomp their foot down on the accelerator. Nobody wants to sit back and let a computer drive them around.
Do you know what Americans love more than that? Doing nothing, being lazy. Do people want to just sit in their cars and do nothing and play on their phones and watch movies and jerk off? That's it.
Well, they play on their phones and watch movies while they're driving right now.
But now it would be.
I see your point.
You got the point.
I see your point.
People want to sit and do nothing.
Oh yes, you've got these two competing urges in Americans: the urge to just sit back and do nothing and just relax, versus the urge for speed, the need for speed, the urge to drive, to feel that motor, because that's a very masculine thing.
You know what's not masculine? Getting hit by an 18-wheeler. Did I tell you this?
No, what happened?
Carly and I almost died.
No, my God.
Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
We were traveling from New York to Pennsylvania to visit her family. It was our Thanksgiving. We just spent Thanksgiving, her and I, together, but we were doing Thanksgiving with our family on Black Friday. So it was our Thanksgiving travel. So anyways, on Black Friday, we're driving through New Jersey, Route 287, 4-lane highway. I'm in the right center lane, just cruising. I'm a baby driver. If you don't know this already, I'll tell you, I am a very conservative driver. I don't want to die in a car accident.
I am too. I'm not aggressive at all. No.
Ever since I was 15, 16, I was like, let's not die in a car accident. I had a friend who died, or an acquaintance that died in high school, and I was like, okay, that's a really dumb way to die. Don't want to die in a car accident. Do everything you can to not die in a car accident. So I've always been a conservative driver. My friends make fun of me, and it's a good make fun of.
I get made fun of all the time.
And I like it. I take it. I'm like, I'm the guy in the right lane that everybody wants to go around. Even just this morning, it doesn't even need to be a passing zone. People go by me. Somebody went by me. I was in a 55 doing like 53. Roads are a little icy, so I'm going to go a little bit slower. But a truck just still went right by me, not in a no passing zone. That's how bad apparently I am. So anyways, we're driving, cruising 65, and Morris Township, New Jersey, and a lot of freaking people. Everybody, we were driving right by the mall exit. There was a ton of people outside. All of a sudden, in my rearview mirror and my side mirror, I see a fucking truck, a grill of a truck, way too close. Way too close.
Oh my God.
I start as soon as it triggered in my head, oh man, that dude's way too close. I hit the gas, less than a second later, impact. He hits us from, we're going like this, he hits our rear driver side. Wow. Crashes us into like that. We spin, do 360. So I'm turning around and I see the guy in the corner of my eye. Like this is that slow motion. Like people like everything's going in slow motion.
I've had that. Yes.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
It's like one of these like Einstein theories of relativity. Like time just slows down for you. Like or your brain just slows things down when it's
a couple
in survival
of seconds,
mode.
but it feels like an hour.
The whole thing probably took 5 seconds, but I had a lot of thoughts in those 5 seconds and a lot of visual stimuli happening. and Carlene had no idea what was going on. She just started freaking out and screaming. And so I'm like, okay, we're getting hit by a truck. We're on the highway. So we spin completely around, and now her side is getting hit by the truck. This is one of those 18-wheelers car carriers.
Oh my
It has
gosh.
8 cars on it. One of those cars that are like above the driver's hood, and then like 7 other ones behind it. So it's like, I haven't even done the math, but I'm assuming it's like 50 tons of steel going 70-something miles an hour at us.
Right at you.
And so,
Well, you know, the fact that you were spinning and it was hitting you and then again probably saved you, because if it had just been one big boom, bash, you know, wow.
do you know what the trick was?
What?
And to not get scared. Somehow, I might be a serial killer. Maybe someday in the future we'll watch this I'll be watching this from my prison cell. I did not get scared for a moment. I was very aware of what was happening, and I was aware enough where I thought to myself, don't hit the brake, because you're going 65, 70 miles an hour right now. And if you hit the brake, that's when you start flipping.
Right.
Like you're going to stop and the truck's going to keep hitting you. Because he hit us 3 or 4 times on the side. I'll show you the video later of the 5 minutes after the accident. So he hit her side 3 or 4 times. Boom, boom, boom. This whole time I'm just hitting the gas. Just staying on the gas. Just like, okay, just keep hitting the gas. And hopefully this driver's slowing down now. And I could just straighten it out. And sure enough, within 5 seconds, we did. But it was terrifying. The whole time she's screaming and freaking out. But me, I was like, okay, I got this. Like, legit thoughts in my... This is the first time I'm recording my memory of this. But I've said this several times. But I remember being very lucid in my thoughts. And I was like, okay, you're getting hit by a truck. Just keep hitting the gas and you're going to be fine. Oh, you got to get out of this. And the impact was like kind of jostling us and stuff. I was like, oh, this is like a bumper car. Last time I felt like this, I was riding bumper cars 20 years ago. Those were the thoughts going through my head. So turns out I somehow straightened the car out and we pull over to the side of the road. And so it was a lot of luck. There's just like 99% luck that there were no other cars there. We weren't on a bridge, and the driver knew something was going on fast enough. But that 1% was me just being aware and just hitting the gas. So, but 99% luck. But that 1% I won't forget, because I have to give some credit to myself, because I was very aware of what was going on. And so here's what I knew. I was like, I might be a serial killer, or I can just count on myself in pressure situations, because as soon as we pulled over, Carlene's next to me freaking out, crying, going crazy. And I remember first thought in my head, I was like, wow, she's really overreacting. Like, was she? What? This isn't that big of a deal.
You see, this is why normal people need sociopaths in their life. Because in a crisis, there's nobody like a sociopath to keep everything calm and orderly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't freak me out for a second. I took that, and then I started to get bothered. I was like, what is wrong with me? Why did I handle that way too well? And I checked my pulse, and nothing. I was like, I'm talking to you the way I was talking to her right at that moment. So yeah, anyways, we almost died.
Now, the lack of a pulse, that might indicate that you're not actually a serial killer, you're actually a vampire.
Vampires know how to drive?
I would assume so. I don't know.
That is one of those things I secretly have a wish deep down inside that vampires are real.
Oh, we
like,
all
where does
do.
that legend come from anyways? Do you know?
The modern concept of a vampire comes from Bram Stoker and Dracula. When he wrote Dracula in 1897, he was drawing on old Transylvanian stories about Vlad the Impaler, but he really created the modern vampire. Wears a cape, can't come out in the daylight, can't see his reflection in a mirror, can be killed with a stake through his heart, is afraid of garlic, is afraid of crosses. That's all from Bram Stoker. And every movie, play, TV show, novel from onward is all basically borrowing his stuff.
Was Dracula the first vampire? That we, I guess, if we're just talking legendary.
In the popular consciousness,
yeah.
no, it goes back a little bit farther than that. And there's always been like legends of the vampire, but they didn't kind of take the shape that Stoker put it into that we think of when we think of Dracula, or which has then been carried on through all the Anne Rice characters. And like
when did we call vampires vampire? Like who coined that word?
That's a good question. That I don't know, but
you could just make it up. I'll believe you.
Okay, but the precursor to Bram Stoker was a man named John Polidori, who was a British doctor. And have you ever heard of the haunted summer of
No.
1818?
No.
1818 was a year, kind of like this last year we've had, kind of like 2017 here in the United States. It was just a year of cataclysmic climate changes. And the climate just basically went haywire. They had a very cold, very dreary summer. And
Was this Europe?
Europe, yeah.
Okay.
And four British expats, Lord Byron, his friend Dr. John Polidori, the poet Percy Shelley, and Percy's wife, Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, were all holed up in a villa in Switzerland, which they thought was going to be a nice, warm, peaceful summer, and instead they were just trapped inside by the rain all summer. And to amuse themselves, they had a contest to see who could write the scariest story. And Shelley and Byron both tried and lost interest. Mary Shelley came up with the winner. She wrote the story, which eventually became Frankenstein. And John Polidori, who was not a professional writer, came up with a story about a vampire, about an aristocratic, mysterious stranger who turns out to be a blood-sucking vampire. And he published his novel. It was called The Vampire, which was spelled Vampyre in those days.
That's a dope way to spell it.
Dope way to spell it. And that was really what gave Bram Stoker the inspiration for Dracula, and he kind of fleshed it out, so to speak.
So that one little summer camp trip,
Exactly.
shitty weather, we get Frankenstein and vampires.
Yes, and a whole lot of other stuff was going on in that villa that summer. These were like the proponents of free love.
So it was like a little hippie commune.
It was like a very literary, very upper class hippie commune. It was like Downton Abbey meets Woodstock.
So who recorded that?
The
other guy who gave up on the
pretty Lord Byron. Yeah, Lord Byron, who was Britain's greatest poet, and also a guy who had sex with everybody he met. Males, females, cocker spaniels. I don't think he ever stopped anywhere. But it was like the summer of free love, yeah. And it also produced Frankenstein and ultimately produced Dracula.
No kidding.
Yeah. Now you were said that. Now back to your accident. Was the car totaled?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Gosh.
Dude, what pisses us off is that thing had 216,000 miles on it and ran like a pony.
Well, I remember you were very happy with it.
She's a thoroughbred. Yeah. That thing has been everywhere from Key West, Florida to Quebec City, Canada with us. Like that was a great car. But she kept us alive, which was her number one goal.
Oh, yes.
It's the same with our little puppy.
Right.
No longer a puppy. His main job is to protect us and keep us alive when we go camping and keep away bears and coyotes and shit. So that car served its purpose. It took 216,000 miles before it finally was able to save our lives, like to prove it. But yeah, it was a 8-year-old car, 9-year-old car, so it was a blue book value was like $1,000.
Yeah.
Like so yeah.
Well, a 9-year-old car with 1,000 miles on it. It probably decided just to go out in a blaze of glory.
It did.
I don't want to just have them trade me in and have me sold to some, junk dealer.
Yeah.
I want to die a hero.
And that's its job.
Yeah.
And that goes for the puppy too. Like this, we're not allowed to put Muncie, because this is all fresh in my mind too, because I went for a walk with Muncie this morning up at Grafton. And
how old is Muncie now?
7. He just turned 7 months.
Wow.
So he just weighed in at 20 pounds too. He's a big boy now.
Oh.
I know 20 pounds for a dog doesn't sound like much, but you gotta see him again. When we got him, he was 5 pounds.
Oh yeah, I remember.
So yeah,
he's a little ball of fluff.
Yeah, now he's a dog. He's got full mouth of teeth.
He's not a puppy anymore.
Terrifying teeth. Terrifyingly strong teeth. So anyways, this morning him and I went for a hike. It was like 2 degrees out there. Like it gets a little bit colder up at Grafton than it does here in downtown. But I saw tracks in the snow that I didn't recognize. I was like, those aren't deer. They're probably too small to be a moose. What else could they be? I was like, are those bear tracks? But bears should be hibernating and sleeping should be right now, but some won't be, right?
Right.
So he was starting to act like, not weird, but like more alert. Like he kept like looking around, stopping a little bit more frequently. I was like, oh shit, is today the day? And I started hearing weird sounds too. When was the last time you were in the woods in the winter? Has it been recently?
A few years.
You experience the quiet and the calm.
Yes.
There's no leaves on the tree, so you don't hear any wind, you don't feel any tree. Like you just, every little sound.
Which is wonderful and zen until you hear that one crackle.
Yes, it's exactly it. And I felt like we were surrounded by these sounds, and then I see these tracks that weren't old, like they happened today, wherever these tracks were. And I kept following. I'm like, okay, I'm looking for something that looks like a paw print, like a claw. Mm-hmm. And that
big round print with the 5 claws.
I was hoping, but I couldn't see it in the snow, and I couldn't distinguish what it was in the snow. But it was it was definitely a wild animal. Like it was off, like it was crossing the trail. It wasn't with somebody. There were other footprints a little bit from somebody that was out there hiking with their dog. I saw their dog prints, but these ones were like crossing the trail and everything, no human following it. So I was like, this is a wild animal. It's not a dog.
Right.
I don't know what it is, but I thought I actually took a video on my phone when I was out there with Muncie, and I said, I'm just making this video because today might be the day. Like, because we're still gonna walk. Because if I sense there's a bear or whatever, like, I'm an idiot. I want to see it. I moved away from Florida 3 years ago. I want to see a bear ever since I left. And our friend actually, first week we moved up here, she saw a bear at Grafton. I totally
understand, because when I go to Florida, I want to see an alligator.
There you go, 100%. So which also you should. I've had several people when we lived in Florida that visited us. They're like, I want to see an alligator. I was like, okay. So I take them out to see alligators. And my one friend who visits from California, we rented this canoe, and we went into the Everglades with this canoe. Nobody else out there. It's just him and I. And you're basically, when you're sitting in the canoe, the water's right here. Like, you don't have to extend your arm all the way down to be in the water. Like, if I put my arm flat in, it's basically almost up to my elbow. Mm-hmm. So you're in the water. You feel very vulnerable. So him and I are going through this like mangrove-y type area, and we look ahead, and I see about 100 feet away a big freaking wide-headed alligator, massive head on it.
Wow.
And the snout was super long. You know the math of how they break down, how you estimate how big of an alligator is? It's like, how long is its snout?
From the snout to the head.
Yeah, like that in inches equals how long it is in feet.
Oh, really? I did not know that. Okay.
I remember this being at least a foot, the snout. So I was like, that's like a 12-foot alligator. Let's call that a 12-foot alligator.
Okay.
So anyways.
Was it like an inch to a foot or something?
Yeah, something like that. How many inches their snout is, and this is probably wrong. I don't know when last time I actually looked this up.
For the purposes of this podcast,
you get this. Yeah.
We're talking a huge alligator.
I'm allowed to make things up. Most things I say are made up. So anyways, it was a big freaking alligator, and my friend had never seen one before, and I had never been this intimate with an alligator, as in I'm in its territory. Like, I've seen them on alligator farms and just fishing and shit from a bigger boat or from the shore. I'm like, okay, there's a gator over there, avoid it. This thing, and they typically avoid you, but this thing, after him and I stopped, I was like, okay, let's just check it out, see what's going on.
Right, because contrary to popular belief, alligators don't live to attack people.
No, they don't. No animals really do.
They don't want to walk into a fight. They want to avoid a fight.
They eat a lot of freaking dogs, but they don't want to mess with people. So him and I are just kind of parked there for a second, our little canoe. There's nobody else out there, and all of a sudden, this gator, after a few seconds of looking at us, I'm like, whoa, dude, this is pretty cool. It goes down into the water. I'm like, all right, it's going down. Let's see what happens. 10 seconds later, it comes up, and it's like 50 feet closer. I was like, whoa, it just covered a lot. It's getting closer. Okay, all right, let's stay here, see what happens. It goes down again, comes up 5 or 10 seconds later. It's like 20 feet closer. At this point, it's only about 30 feet away. I'm estimating the whole time. But basically, it was coming towards us. And my friend started to freak out a bit. And I remember saying, oh, come on, dude. Do you really want, like, for me, having lived in Florida for a long time, really in contact with seeing alligators all the time and sharks and shit, I wasn't really that afraid. I was more interested to see what would happen because I'm an idiot. But I was like, listen, it's like, do you really want to be the dudes that just turn around and ran? Because he's like, let's get the frick out of here. It's getting too close. I was like, no, let's see where this goes. And he said, no, I want to be the ones that survive this and are able to tell the story. Let's get the fuck out of here. So we turn around, get the hell out of there. But the way it was behaving, we went and talked to a park ranger after that, and we told her, I said, hey, this alligator was coming towards us. She's like, It's because people are idiots and they go out there and they feed these things.
Oh.
So they're sitting in their kayaks or their canoes and they're like throwing chicken or whatever at these gators. So they see us as a source of food. She's like, now I'm going to have to obviously go report this and we're going to have to go check out this alligator. She's like, we'll try to relocate it. Either probably go send it to an alligator farm or something. But if it's really dangerous when they come up, any wild animal.
Because it was waiting for you to throw it some Kentucky Fried Chicken.
It's sauce as a food source, exactly.
Yeah.
So I like to think I didn't contribute to a dead alligator. I don't think they would have killed it because it's not like it was being aggressive, but it was being a little bit too comfortable.
It's not your fault anyway. You're not the one who was.
I know, and it makes me mad at people though.
Yeah.
Like because the same thing with bears and anything in nature.
Well, of course, living in Florida, you're familiar with Carl Hiaasen, the novelist.
No, go on.
Oh, Carl Hiaasen was a reporter for the Miami Herald, and he's written a long string of crime novels set in South Florida, filled with all kinds of shady characters and brilliant descriptions. He's a wonderful writer. You got to check him out. And his novels are just hilarious and full of Florida details.
Florida's so shady.
Oh yeah, it is. It is. And you name something in Florida, like phony land grabs and crooked politicians and people selling alligators on the black market. He's into it. He writes about it. And he describes, like this in one of his books. There's this guy who, lives in Florida and goes out onto his dock every night and throws a few chickens out to the alligators because he thinks it's fun watching them jump for it. And then one day he doesn't come, and the alligators are there looking for their chicken. And one of his grandkids just happens to wander out. And oh, here's our chicken.
Oh my God. Dude, not a year would go by, specifically during the winter time down there, you would hear just about puppies. Like somebody walking next to, or the early morning jogger. Occasionally it would get a person, an early morning jogger that'd be jogging along a canal, and a gator would come out and pull a woman in. Yeah. Wasn't it just like 4 or 5 years ago, at Disneyland?
That was last year, I think.
Was that a year ago?
It was just about a year ago. It was terrible. And it was... that poor little 3-year-old kid with his dad standing right there. They're in like 2 feet of water, and the parents were very unfairly blamed by idiot posters, all over the internet. How could you put your child in danger like that? Blah blah blah.
It's easy to call someone stupid.
It really is. It really is. But this was right in a little lagoon at Disney World where no alligator had ever been seen before. It was totally a fluke. It was really. Not the parents' fault, certainly, and possibly not even Disney World's fault.
Dude, we forget, we get reminders every now and again that we live in nature. Like, we like to think we create these cool cities and these houses and a Disney World that we just build on a swamp. And every now and again, nature reminds you that, no, you share this with us.
Well, you
can't kick us all out.
So much of the American ethos, the American character, it's ingrained in us. We're the men who conquered the mountains. We're the men who conquered the prairies. We are the men who tamed nature and brought it under control and established civilization.
And we're done. We act like that's done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why it would the shark attack things too. People overblow those. That's one of the craziest things that Shark Week. Shark Week is dope. We love sharks.
Oh, we love sharks. I don't know if you've ever. I'm sure you've told me you worked. Thunder Mountain Curry.
Yeah.
You've worked at Thunder Mountain Curry. I'm also with Thunder Mountain Curry, and we had the great pleasure of having Doug with us for a little over a year.
Well, I'm gonna write your bio on the video link.
Oh, okay.
And you're a playwright. I mean, there's a lot of commas I could put in there. You're a chef, a playwright, conspiracy debunker, which I'm still not convinced JFK wasn't killed. We could definitely circle back to that.
We'll get to it.
There's a former state employee.
Yeah.
Running for. Who knows?
It's.
I don't even know what the hell.
It's interesting having done a whole bunch of things, although you don't make a whole lot of money doing that.
Yeah, but
then, as Mr. Bernstein said in Citizen Kane, it's no great trick to make a lot of money if all you want to do is make a lot of money.
Let's see, and then this is what you get. You're the kind of person that gets from doing all this random stuff that you're not focused on. It's not about making money. It's about you just quoted 1818 freaking ski lodge chalet in Switzerland, and now you're quoting Citizen Kane.
But there's but anyway, Doug was with us at Thunder Mountain Curry for a year, and
I'm a quasi chef.
yes, you are. You're more than a quasi chef.
I learned some shit,
and even though he doesn't still work with us, he's still part of the family. He'll always
no doubt,
because you don't choose Thunder Mountain. Thunder Mountain chooses you.
Yeah, you guys taught me, dude. It's fantastic.
And
we used to
have these conversations all day long. But when you mention sharks, every summer at Thunder Mountain Curry now we celebrate Shark Week, and we show shark movies all week long, and
we celebrate when they eat a person.
Exactly. And we started out showing Jaws, and we quickly realized that wasn't enough fun, so we showed Sharknado movies all week. Sharknado.
How many are there?
I think there's like 7 now. We ran out of time, but those are just awesome.
Why would they ever stop that? I'm sure they're money makers.
I'm sure they are. Yeah, and but movies like that just propagate the idea that sharks are vicious killers and predators, and that's why. One reason why the shark population is being depleted.
I saw, apparently this video came out last year. I don't know if you caught it, but I only caught it recently, and it made me sick to my stomach. There were these 3 dudes, like in the early 20s, which, is always a bad recipe. 3 dudes in their 20s are always going to...
Oh, yeah.
There's prisons filled with 3 dudes
Nothing good ever happens with 3 guys in their 20s.
Yeah, so they're drinking, they're out fishing off the coast of Florida, and they catch a shark. And they reel it in. I guess it looked like they tied its tail up, and they just started dragging it behind the boat.
Oh my Lord!
And the moron, on top of it being morons for doing that, which just makes you sick to your stomach. I watched the video. I'm like, this thing's just flopping around, and they're just laughing.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that there was a pretty large beer cooler on that boat too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the morons, of course, posted it online thinking, oh, look how cool we are. This is hilarious. Like, talk about not understanding how the temperature of the room or the temperature of the world. Like, you can't do that anymore.
Right.
These dudes, immediately, people are like, we got to get these fuckers. And I think I don't know how many charges they're up on, but they're going to jail for it. Because it's disgusting. It disgusts you. And I'm like, dude, we're killing so many sharks. Like, people don't give a fuck enough about nature.
Exactly.
Like, we don't give enough a rip about it that we could just laugh at this poor animal.
Right.
I love nature. I love that. If a bear were to eat me this morning, this was the thought going through my head as I was like legit terrified out there. I don't know what these tracks are. I've always said that Muncie's here to help protect me from bears. My friend saw a bear here. I'm the only one out here. There's some weird sounds. If a bear eats me, there's at least several people that know that I'll be like, yeah, that's a pretty dope way to go. Like, way to go, nature. Like, right. I would not be mad at the bear. I wouldn't want anybody mad at the bear. It was doing its job. It was being a bear.
Right.
It's eating people. That's what it's supposed to do.
And so you had the phone out and you're going, I'm following these mysterious tracks. I don't know where they will lead. Mom, Dad, I love you and I'm grateful for everything you ever did for me. Colleen, I don't want you to mourn forever. 10 or 15 years would be nice.
See, that's like, and of course, almost dying. It's weird to say almost dying because of the car accident. I don't feel like we almost died, but we should have.
We didn't get hurt.
It should have been worse.
I mean, if you're injured in a car accident, then I think it stays with you longer. Although, I had an accident where my car was totaled, and it was 9 years ago now. And I drive past the place where it happened almost every day because it's on my route home. And I still get the willies sometimes.
Whoa.
It doesn't take... Well, did your airbags go off?
No.
They didn't?
No. Somehow they didn't. But if you see the car, you're like, why didn't they go off?
Have you ever had an airbag go off in your face?
No.
It happens really without you even realizing. Like, I don't remember the airbag going. Like you said, it goes very quiet and it seems to take forever. Everything goes in slow motion. But it was like 1 minute the airbag wasn't there, and then the next minute my whole face is muffled by it.
Whoa!
And
at that point, you can't even.
Right,
like, you're done driving.
Yeah, because you can't see anything. You're immobilized by the airbag. But whatever chemicals they put in the airbag, it's a very weird, very sickening smell. And the state trooper who was there, who responded to it was a one-car accident, and I didn't get hurt, but they still came. And the state trooper said to me, he said, the two things that you never get used to at an accident scene are the smell of blood and the smell of airbag. He said they both make me sick.
How would you describe the smell of airbag? Is it just chemicals? Is
Kind
it
of,
powder?
kind of like a powdery metallic smell is the best way I can describe it. But it's
And if you smelled that right now, you'd be like, "Oh, that's
I
the
would.
accident
Oh
smell."
yeah, I would.
That was such a.
that would bring it right back.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Power of smell, right?
Oh yeah, people don't realize how strong your sense of smell is. Like, the smell of something, a whiff of something, will bring it. Like, I once had I once had a friend years ago. He was older than I was. He served in Vietnam, and he said that, and he rode his bike to work every day, and he said, on a really hot day when the temperature's like in the 80s, low 90s, is that the smell of hot rubber on asphalt will bring Vietnam back to me like nothing else. He says a lot of times when I wake up in the morning, it's a really hot day, I think, no, I'm going to drive today.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. Hot rubber.
Yeah.
What did he experience in Vietnam?
I don't know, but somehow hot rubber on asphalt did it for him.
God damn.
Yeah. So anyway, this was your Thanksgiving then. You just spent the rest of the Thanksgiving down there.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of reliving the accident and dealing with the insurance.
Well, that was the thing too. And the truck driver came out and he's like, he knew it was his fault. Well, he didn't know it right away. He had no idea what happened. I explained to him, I was like, dude, you just came up on us and just started veering into our lane. You came from behind. He drove us into his blind spot.
Yeah.
And whatever, that was the end of it. And he was just like, I'm so sorry, I'm so glad you guys are okay at the end of the day. So their insurance took care of it. We got
that's good.
Got a new car.
Yeah. But still, it's terrible to have that happen out of town because, it's so much easier if it happens
Dude,
right
New
at
Jersey.
home. Yeah.
Our friend, she's a lawyer down in Brooklyn. And when we told her this, she said, I would not let you guys die in New Jersey. She's like, I would get those death certificates and I would change the place of death. She's like, I would not let it be on your death certificate you guys died in New Jersey because we can't stand New Jersey. It's just been it's a drive through between Pennsylvania and Connecticut, and my experience in New Jersey has always been like, it is the armpit of the country. Like, it is.
I mean,
not a great state.
I mean, this is a state that has given us both the Lindbergh kidnapping and the MTV Jersey Shore series. So really, what good could ever happen there?
Exactly. So, but what was crazy though? So I was disturbed that I wasn't scared. I had no anxiety or anything, but I was relieved because the day after the accident, that Saturday, I did start to get anxiety. I was like, really started to think about it. I was like, okay, good. I'm nervous and scared today.
It happens afterwards.
I was like, thank you.
Delayed reaction.
So for 2 or 3 days, I was a little shook up, and I was thankful for that because I was like, I don't want this to resurface in 20 years.
Yeah.
This anxiety, I don't want to bury this down. I want this to come out now and be like, okay, you survived. Go forward. You were scared. Get over with it. So
how'd Carlene do?
She was panicked for a few days, and we don't like the highway right now. We actually were driving to Boston the other day for a couple days before New Year's to visit my friend that was in Florida, from Florida. He was visiting in Boston, and on our way there, we were about 2 hours in, and it was snowing, and it was like a lot of cars. And
she starts to get
antsy. She was getting anxious, and I was like, okay, fine, let's turn around. Let's not. So there is still some anxiety there, but I don't know. I think I'm over it.
Yeah.
But her as the passenger, and she had no idea. For her, it just happened like for no reason. I actually kind of saw it happen. I think that benefited me, seeing and knowing what was going on because I saw the truck in the rearview mirrors.
Whereas she's just
like, ah! Yeah, she's just hearing crashes and shit. And Muncie was in the back, and he was like, hey guys, what's going on? Like, he handled like a pro. Like, we have a little seatbelt for him.
That was fun. Let's do that again, Dan.
Dude, he was like, guys, what's up? Guys, what's up? Like, but he saw her freaking out, and he seemed really concerned. I was like, God damn, why can't he speak? Like, I want to know what's on his mind. So anyways, yeah, I was thinking about that, like, this morning. I was like, okay, I get a feeling there's something out here. Is there a bear? And then it made me think of surviving the accident. And I was like, I didn't survive the accident to not take a little chance.
Right.
So I was like, we're going to stay out here a little while longer, walk a little bit further, maybe not follow these tracks, but we're going to go the way we were going anyways. So I feel like we were, at that point, I felt like we were spared a little bit. I'm like, okay, we're still alive. Like, I've had a handful of like, oh, I could have died in moments. In my life, and this was just the most recent one. And whenever it's not. I very much appreciate life. I don't need reminders. Like I feel like a lot of people need reminders, like of what matters.
Yeah.
But I've always tried to make a conscious effort to knowing what
You don't
matters.
need to brush with death to make you realize. Yeah.
But it's still helpful.
Yeah.
Like it's still triggered a bit more of the spirit of the being alive, of appreciating people, appreciating everything, and realizing, okay, you really got this can end just in a second. Like we both could have been kaput. We would have been already dead over a month, and the world would have already forgotten about us, which is fine because we're all temporary. We're all going to be forgotten, but most of us.
We would have had Doug Rusko Day.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you guys might have. That would have been great.
We would have. We would have invented an ice cream for you.
Oh, that would have been so dope. Oh man, see, but if I get eaten by a bear, you'll still invent an ice cream?
Oh, absolutely.
Because this guy makes incredible homemade ice cream. So it could be like Doug Rusko Bear Claw or something.
It's something like
that.
that.
It's got to be tongue in cheek. It's got to
exactly, yeah.
You got to know that that's the way I'd want it to go. Like I would want a bear to eat me.
And we'll show Grizzly Man.
And yes, who that guy gets? That's the guy who gets eaten.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, you were following tracks and you weren't really afraid. That guy was just an idiot.
He just lived with bears.
Yeah, and he. Well, the thing is, he convinced himself that he had some kind of mystical telepathic ability to communicate with these bears, that they were actually his friends, that they loved him. And no, these are animals whose primary interest in life is food and shelter and rest and you know,
and banging,
making new bears, making little bears, and not being bothered by other creatures. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time. I should probably watch it again because it does end really sad because he dies.
Yeah, and what's even more sad is that his girlfriend dies, and that wasn't her fault. Well, it was her fault for not leaving him, but
it was his idea. He compelled her to stay out. Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my thought this morning. I was like, I didn't survive the car crash.
Add her to the long list of women who did really stupid things for the men in their life. But oh, honey.
Wait, so they both died at the same time?
They were both eaten. Yeah.
They were attacked and eaten at the same time.
At the same time in their sleeping bags. Yeah.
Oh my god! And this was Alaska?
Alaska. Yeah.
All right.
Wow. That was some Black Friday, Doug.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine, but it is funny how time just goes on.
By the way, that reminds me. Do you know where the term Black Friday comes from? Do you know who originated it?
I hear a lot of theories on it. I haven't heard you explain it to me.
Well, this is the theory that I heard recently, and it makes as much sense as anything. I'm sure there are competing theories.
Jackie Kennedy Onassis?
No, she didn't. She had nothing to do with that one, no. But, although that certainly was a Black Friday.
Did it happen on a Friday?
Yeah. Well, no, a lot of people think like the term Black Friday was coined by merchants because it's the day we're overwhelmed with people, you know. Mm-hmm. But actually, it was, according to this story I heard on television the other day, and if you see it on television, it must be true. Just like if you read something on the internet, it's got to be true.
Yeah. Remember that used to be the case, though? If you saw it on TV, everybody agreed. Like, there were only 5 stations.
Right, yes.
And so everybody was getting the same news from the same source and agreed on everything.
And if Walter Cronkite said something, you believed him.
Yeah. Now...
Yeah,
Good
not
luck.
so much.
Good
not
luck
so
sorting
much.
this out.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, according to what I heard, it was a phrase coined by the Philadelphia Police Department because the day after Thanksgiving was just hell for them because they got so many calls. They got calls not only from, domestic disturbances from families that were all gathered for Thanksgiving and they couldn't take another day, and also people in stores, shoppers who were going crazy and punching each other and fighting over that last stereo. And the cops get called out to stores and malls more on Black Friday than they do on any other day. And so the Philadelphia police started referring to it as Black Friday. And then
when did we start doing the shopping on Black Friday thing?
That's a good question. I don't know. Fairly recently, like a couple of decades ago, maybe, because I don't remember that being a big thing when I was a kid. Do you? Of course, I was a kid before you were, but
I remember when it got ramped up. When it started, well, like I remember the phrase Black Friday. Oh, it's Black Friday.
It's like it was never a thing, and then all of a sudden it was a huge thing.
It was a huge thing. Like,
and all the stores started having Black Friday sales. But
Kmart, I remember Kmart. I always associate Kmart with Black Friday more than any other place.
Yeah. For those of you out there who are too young to remember Kmart, that was what we had before Walmart. Pretty much the same thing.
You used to have to walk into a well, if this is in the future, somebody's watching this 100 years in the future, you used to have to walk into a place that had things, and you would give them money, and you would walk out of the place with that thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing in the future. Well, right now, it's the future, 2018. You don't have to leave your house, man. How many Amazon packages have I seen delivered in the past few weeks leading up to Christmas on people's front doors?
Well, earlier we were saying that this future that they promised us when we were kids, that it was going to be just like the Jetsons, didn't materialize. But there's a lot of things that would seem miraculous.
It seems better
years ago. I mean, you have a telephone that you can watch movies on, and you can look up information on, and you can send messages to other people without talking to them.
Because Americans are lazy. Because Americans we don't want to have to talk to people. We don't want to have to really. We want quick answers.
Yeah.
Do you think our brains are going to get bigger? I have no choice but to evolve and get bigger with all this information.
Oh, I think they are. I think they will.
But our skulls can't get any bigger. Like that's one of the things I've heard several times over the years is our brains are our hardware is kind of stuck in this shell, these skulls, because the birth canal can't get any bigger than it already is in a human.
Right, so you can't have a baby. But then would the baby be born with a normal-sized skull, and it would kind of grow and expand to fit the growing brain? I don't know. Could we evolutionarily... Is there an adverb for evolution?
I think
evolutionarily.
I know what you meant, so I think that's a word.
Okay.
Like I knew what you meant.
If it isn't, it is now.
So if I knew what you meant, if I know what you mean,
can our bodies adapt to growing brains eventually over the course of a few centuries?
Well, see, that's what I think I've heard is that most biologists, scientists, whatever people I've heard speak about this is that we've reached that limit. Our skulls haven't grown much in the past, I don't know, a couple 100,000 years.
Right.
Ever since, I think the past 350,000 years, 350,000 years ago, I think is where we're at now, where they find, if we took a human, they found remains of somebody in Morocco recently, I believe, that you take that person that they found those remains and put them dressing like us today. They fit exactly. They look exactly like us. So apparently our skulls haven't grown.
Yeah, we tend to think of them as being hulking.
Yeah,
but they weren't. They
weren't
the same size.
Well, we keep pushing it back because every time we find a new fossil, a new human remain,
it looks more like us than we want to.
Oh, we went because it used to be 100,000 years ago that we think the modern human was developed or born. Then 150, then 250, and now it's like 350. Based on the most recent one that I'm aware of, they're like, oh yeah, that was a human. That would be just like us 350,000 years ago.
Yeah,
but you go further back, those brains are smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and the skulls are smaller and smaller and smaller.
You get a skull with the sloping forehead.
Yeah. What do we like on Earth? There's 3 animals that have a frontal lobe as big proportion as us, the dolphins, and pigs.
Pigs,
I think, have the most developed frontal cortex of any animals on Earth. Once again, I might be making most of that up.
No, that's fine.
But you'll buy it.
I'll buy it. That does make a lot of sense. Pigs are very intelligent, but not apes. I mean, I thought we're apes are like 90% of our genetic makeup.
I think that's the big part that's missing in ape. What I thought, is it 98%?
98%.
I thought I've always been going with 98%.
We'll go with 98%.
98%. For the chimpanzees, the bonobo chimpanzees, but I think that's where the 2% really shows itself is they don't have
the frontal lobe.
They don't have the frontal lobe like we do. But dolphins and pigs.
So they're never going to take over the world and enslave us.
I
worry more about that with every remake that comes out.
I love
I love
Planet of the Apes, man. I watch every monkey movie ever made.
And I know the new ones are so high, they're so CGI and it's wonderful, but boy, for those of you out there who remember when the first Planet of the Apes movie with Charlton Heston came out, and you had Roddy McDowell and his cheesy bad ape makeup. I mean,
did you see that in the theaters?
I saw it in the theater when I was a kid. Yeah, in fact, I don't remember how old I was, but I was probably like 8 or 9. And but that was the cool. You thought that was the coolest thing in the world. That movie, yeah.
That monkeys could talk.
Yeah, and of course, you watch it again today, and it's such a cheesy movie.
It seems slow. Like the action.
It does because today we're so used to boom, 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 boom movies. Yeah.
Yeah, that movie was all about the ending, right?
Yeah,
like it's
that,
all
that
anybody,
wonderful ending. Yeah,
I can't remember seeing the movie in its entirety, but I remember vividly seeing the ending like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Like the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then Charlton Heston, you...
Damn you all the hell!
That's that stage acting coming through, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's what... when we watch... There's a show called Svengoolie on the ME channel every Saturday night, 8 o'clock, Svengoolie. And this dude is like a sci-fi...
You told me about that.
Yes,
I haven't checked it out yet, but I'll have to, yeah.
He's like a big... Like an old sci-fi geek.
See, I can't watch anything else on Saturday night because it interrupts with my PBS Britcoms.
Well, if you ever get around to Svengoolie, he every week is a new show, like a new old 50s, 60s sci-fi movie. And what was Mr. Cyclops or the Cyclops Man was the most recent one. Okay. There's a lot of black and white ones.
Oh.
And when we're watching them, you could tell that it just seems like a world away. Like it seems like it might have been might as well have just been 1,000 years ago that movie took place, because the way that people are acting and what they're talking about is just completely just not like this world anymore. Like, we're in the future right now compared to that world. Mm-hmm. And you could tell that they were stage actors.
Yeah.
It's like the way they act, they present, and it's just all about, like, these people spent their careers before TV was even a thing. They were acting on the stage, right? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you start filming it, and then they still act like they're acting on a stage, the way they write it. And then all of a sudden, this is the thing we pointed out, movies back then just would end. Like, you wouldn't even, like, it just felt like it was always an abrupt end. Like a Shakespearean play, for me, always just seemed like it would just end. I'm like, that's it? Okay. All right. I guess it's over now. Whereas I feel, I don't know if I'm going to explain that right, but watching movies now, I'm like, okay, I could tell we're getting to the end.
We're getting close to the end.
We're wrapping everything up. We're wrapping it up. Boom. Done. But I feel like those old-timey movies, like, I'm like, what? How many characters are here? Like, is it about to end? I don't know if it's about to end, and then boom. And then I just figured it was like, because those are stage actors, and that's how plays, to me at least, have ended. Yeah. But you're going to speak more on plays than I can, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Please, please. This is I was cracking the window, and now you can blow it open for Mr. Playwright.
Oh, Mr. Playwright. Well, actually, my playwriting career is very modest.
Dude, but you're doing it, though.
Yeah,
I've done it.
I've written a few plays. My first play was written with my old writing partner, Ross Levi. Ross, if you're listening to this, we should do another play sometime. My first play was called Call Me When You Get Home. And it's, it was 1999 already. Wow, that's 18 years ago. Wow. Can't believe
19 if you do the
19
do the math.
Yeah, well, we're only a couple of days into 2018.
I know.
But it actually the best things in my life happen by accident. I'm a firm believer that if you just, stumble across something, it could turn into anything. And I was working in the Senate at the time, and there was this guy who worked in the next office, Ross Levi, and we were having lunch one day, and we were talking about unrealized writing projects that we had been working on, because he had a screenplay that he had been working on for years, and I had the proverbial novel in the shoebox under the bed.
The typewriter?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's just
with
a metaphor. I mean, we were onto computers by that point.
All right.
But a computer disk in a shoebox under the bed.
All right.
But a floppy disk, remember those?
Of course I remember floppy disks.
But anyway.
The 3.5 or was the really floppy one or the smaller one?
No, the 3.5, the smaller one, I think.
Right,
yeah.
All right.
But that's what, but anyway, we were having lunch and we were talking about our unrealized writing projects, and I was telling him about this idea that I had for a novel. And he said, that would make a better play than a novel. And I said, well, I never thought about that. I don't think I could write a play. And he goes, well, why don't I try it together? It'd be a nice little summer project. And that was the genesis of the play. And the play is about a 20-year friendship between these two guys. One is gay and one is straight. And it's just kind of like a rambling little slice of life comedy about, these two guys who basically each scene started with them sitting in a coffee house bullshitting, just like we are. Mm-hmm. And then it would spin off into flashbacks. But we started coming up with the idea, and like most ideas that I have, it would have turned out to just peter out into nothing eventually.
But that's don't you sound like you're a little harsh on yourself like that.
I'm always harsh
on
myself.
Well, it is awesome to be your own critic, but
yes,
I would say that's most people who try things
is
that most of them get pushed away,
right.
but you have one or two that you're
right.
like, okay, you run with.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, we were kicking this idea around, and then as fate would have it, that weekend we were both having brunch at the home of our mutual friend Greg Anderson, and Greg has a he's been in the theater for years, and he has a little theater company called $3 Bill. And at brunch, he was telling everybody that one of the things he always wanted to do was produce plays by local Capital District playwrights. And did any of us know any? And kicking each other under the table, Ross and I said, "Well, there's our play, but we don't have a lot done on it yet." And Greg said, "Well, he said, get it into shape and get it to me give me an outline or something in a few days. We'll see what we can do with it." And so I went over to Ross's house the next night, and we're like, "Okay, well, we have to write a play now." We said we had one. So what are we going to do? I don't know. What are we going to do? We'll think of something. And so we started kicking it around, and we started doing a little dialogue, and eventually, and it turned into a play, and we gave it to Greg, and Greg loved it, and we did it at the Arts Center. Not at the Arts Center. We did it at the Linda Norris, the WIMC Performing Arts Center over in Albany, where we staged it. We got actors, and we staged it. We staged it for a weekend, and it was a real amateur production. Ross directed it, and I built the sets and got the costumes, and it was terrific. We got a great response, and that led me to my next play, which was called Odd Man Out. It was about Harvey Milk and Dan White.
This is before the Harvey Milk movie?
This was before the movie. Yes, this is before the movie. This was commissioned by the Capital District Gay and Lesbian Council, what is now the Capital District Pride Center. They commissioned it for the 25th anniversary of Harvey Milk's assassination. And when I say commissioned, I don't mean to imply that they gave me any money. They just said, "Gee, it'd be nice if we did something for Harvey's anniversary."
So they attached their name to it.
Yeah, we did a production. We did that one. Where did we do that one? Did we do that one at the Linda Norris? No, we did that one at the Arts Center here. Here in Troy, yeah. And then later it was picked up and done by a theater company in Nashua, New Hampshire, which was kind of cool.
Dude.
Yeah, so that was fun. And then that led me to write. See, it's like a habit. Once you stop, you just keep doing it. I love the theater. I'm a total theater geek, and I kind of as I just said, I kind of got into the theater by accident. That this just all happened. And then once I got in, I kind of like, gee, I like it here. I'm just going to stay till somebody tells me I have to leave. And so I wrote another play, and this one was called What Remains Behind, which comes from the Wordsworth poem.
William Wordsworth?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm drawing a total blank now.
The name of the poem?
I'm drawing a total blank. Yeah. Oh God. This is embarrassing,
dude.
Though nothing,
there's no. This is you and I having a conversation.
Though nothing can bring back the hour of splendor in the grass, of glory in the flower, we will grieve not, but rather find strength in what remains behind. And it was about a group of old friends, 5 men and 2 women, who had grown up together and who reunited at a summer cottage in Illinois. In the summer of 1920, after they had all been separated by World War I. And some had come back wounded, some had died. They each came back with their own scars. And the play was basically about, over the course of this day, them reliving their wartime experiences, and some of them found some healing and renewal and others didn't. And then that we did that at the Arts Center too here, and that got a nice response.
This was still with Greg?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always been with Greg. And then that...
You need a teammate with this shit, don't you?
You do.
You do need somebody someone to bounce ideas off of. You need someone to put their polish on it, put their spin on it.
Yeah, and then that led me to write the last one, which was called The Shadows of Springfield, which was about Abraham Lincoln. And it kind of shifted back and forth between Lincoln in the White House and flashbacks to his time as a young man in Springfield, Illinois, when he may or may not have had a love affair with his friend Joshua Speed. Yeah.
And that's not purely fictitious?
Not at all.
Is based on something?
There have been a number of books written about it, and the Lincoln scholars are very hotly divided on whether or not this happened. I kind of
there had to be so many dudes, many gay dudes back then.
I kind of lean toward that. Yes, it did happen. Yeah,
because it's way more fun to believe that.
Of course,
just like it's way more fun to think Abraham Lincoln was a vampire hunter too.
Right, exactly.
A gay vampire hunter.
I wish I had thought of that one. There was a lot more money.
That was a great movie. That was a
great movie.
So all of these are finished. This last one.
Yeah,
is finished.
Yeah, and I'm there may be another one. That's kind of right now. I'm kind of in a little bit of a fallow period, but there probably will be another one someday when inspiration strikes.
How does inspiration strike?
That's interesting. I think it strikes differently with everybody, and with me, I hear voices in my head. Okay, for those of you who can't see us, Doug is now looking very nervous and edging away toward the door. Oh, God, he's hearing the voices.
Not at all. Not
those kind of voices.
It's good. We all have voices. Here's what I think, and here's what I've learned getting older and I think more mature. Although I think I've always been a little bit an old man mature for my age. But I think listening to those voices, I've always had the old man voice in my head my entire life. And I think it's important to listen to those voices. And the older I've gotten, I'm like, it is very important to listen to what yourself is saying to you, if that's the right way to say it. Is that what you're speaking of? It's
yes, exactly. Although in my case, when I wrote each play, and again, when I finished a play, I had no idea what I was going to do next. It's not like I had all these ideas at once. And I would just kind of like finish the play and then wait. And Greg would say, "Is there going to be another one?" And I'd say, "I don't know, Greg." And then it would turn to, "I think there is, Greg, but I'm not sure yet." And then it would like, "Okay, I'm working on it." Because I would hear these voices in the back of my head very, 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 very faintly. And just like a murmur. And then gradually they would start to get a little louder and a little louder. And then I could start to distinguish whether these voices were male or female or young or old. And then I would start to hear a few words. And when I started to hear the words, I would start writing them down because they would turn into dialogue. And then at that point, the voices would kind of fade out. I wouldn't hear the voices anymore. But I'd have a few lines of dialogue on paper to start with. And those few lines would become a scene. And sometimes it was a scene. Sometimes it was the opening. Sometimes it was the end. Sometimes it was just somewhere in the middle. But it was a starting point. And if it was in the middle, I'd write that scene. Then I'd work backwards and forwards. And very often the words that I heard and wrote down would end up not being in the play. They'd get edited out, but they were a starting point.
And so it was mostly about, it was mostly these characters that you were developing at that point, or the story?
Yes, mostly the characters, yeah. And I had really no idea where the story went, and that would kind of come to me as I was working. But then it would be, and this is where the second part of the process for me. First you hear the voices, and it gives you just enough dialogue to start. And then I just write stuff, and it would be kind of meandering. I wouldn't really know where I was going with it. And then I would hear something or read something and remember something. A quotation, as you may have noticed, I'm very fond of quotations.
That's one of my favorite things about you.
I love quotations
because they come out of left field. So many. I'm like, what? Trying to cook over here. You quoted what?
But I will hear or read or remember a quotation that ostensibly doesn't have anything to do with the play I'm writing, but it will kind of set the tone. It will tell me what I'm writing about and where I'm going with it. Like, for example, the first play, Call Me When You Get Home, that I wrote with my friend Ross, was about, as I said, it was about a 20-year friendship between these two guys. And over the course of 20 years, like any friendship, they go through it side by side, but not always together. And sometimes they don't understand each other. Sometimes they fight. They have a huge fight, and then eventually they resolve it. And what brought it all into focus for me, and what showed me where I was going with the play, and I dragged Ross reluctantly along with this, was a quotation from the Roman philosopher Seneca, which goes, all lives, whether good or in error. Oh no, I'm sorry. Hold on. Oh God, I'm all over the board here. That's the wrong play. The Seneca was from the Harvey Milk play. The play was about Dan White and Harvey Milk, and it basically started with Harvey and Dan in the afterlife, telling the story of what happened to them in flashback. And the quotation from Seneca was, "All lives, whether good or in error, are only a prologue to love beyond the grave, where all is understood and almost all forgiven." And that was what kind of led me to here are Dan and Harvey who are dead, and they're looking back on their lives and on their interaction with one another, and they get a chance to resolve a lot of things. And I'm not sure where I'm going with that.
Where did that thought come from? Were you driving in your car? Like, where do you? I
don't know. I read it somewhere years ago, probably when I was in college, and it just suddenly popped into my head.
It just popped in.
Yeah.
Here's something that might. Do you know what a float tank is? An isolation tank?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you have any interest in that?
I've never been in one.
This is what I got for my Christmas present from Carlene.
Shut up.
Was because I've been talking about it for a year or so. I'm like, I think this would be really good for my brain. Because you're talking about hearing the voices, listening to the voices,
right. Opening yourself up.
Exactly, and it's so hard to hear those voices when there's so much stimulation all the time, right? Like there's just so much of life going on, your own inner monologue. You can hardly hear, and that soft voice you describe in the back of your head, you're like, it's very faint. What are they saying? Who's saying it? How are they saying it? And so for her, I've talked for a while and said, hey, I want to try this isolation tank thing. Basically, you just sit down. I think they use like 1,200 pounds or something, I think, of Epsom salt in body temperature water, and then you sit on a floaty, I guess, or something. I'm going to check this out before I actually go and do it. But I have the gift certificate for it. And you sit in there. They close the latch or the door to it. It's completely dark. You don't hear anything. You don't see anything.
And you're floating in this substance that's not exactly water, because it's so saturated. It's almost like
you feel like you're floating because it's so salty that you're
like
floating on top of it.
Like in the Dead Sea.
Like the Dead Sea, people go there and they float to the top, right? So it's essentially that. So it's supposed to give you weightlessness and just like it turns off everything since the day you've been born. Your brain has been taking in, your senses have been working, right? This is for an hour at a time. So I have 3 sessions I can do. So I plan on going in there and listening to those voices. That might be something helpful for you too, man.
Where is this here in Troy?
What's awesome about it is discover that there's one in Ballston Spa, and looked at the Ballston Spa one. That's where I was okay. We're like, all right, we're gonna drive up there one day. She's gonna have to drive me because I'm like, I might not want to drive when I get out of there. Like I might be just so deep in thought.
Oh, poor Carly. You're gonna be in the isolation tank, and she's gonna be sitting in the waiting room reading highlights for children.
No.
That's me to get out of the dentist.
See, there's so many coincidences and things that just happen fortuitously that I'm just like, this is awesome. I didn't expect that. This is to my benefit. Turns out we drive by just 2 weeks ago. They're opening one right over here.
Really?
Like on the other, you know where Brown's is?
Sure.
Like right over on that side, on the other side of the bridge. They open the same one.
So you could walk home.
So I could walk home, exactly. So
that's awesome.
It went from having to drive up there, making a whole day out of it, to I could just go walk and do it. So they actually opened today. Today was the very first day.
Really?
So maybe later today or tomorrow, I'm just going to go check out the whole thing.
I can't wait to hear how this goes.
So I think what I've heard other people talk about is that you do really figure out a lot of bullshit, and a lot of like the whole world just turns off, and it's just you and your brain and your thoughts. And you start to hear things. People come up, have some revelations, and they start to really just can think about stuff. And I hope to just sit there and be reflective. An hour seems like a long time to be in absolute isolation.
Yeah.
So I would like to think I could do it, but I'm going to make myself fight through it. I imagine the first 15, 20 minutes, my brain might go into panic, right? Like I don't know. I don't know what to expect.
Is there? I'm assuming there's something that you can ring or push.
That's why I'm gonna go check it out before.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're locked in there. I'm pretty sure you probably just pop it
open. Yeah.
But from what I saw on their website, just what their one in Boston Spa looks like is it's like kind of built into the wall. It looks like a spa, like you'd be walking into a tub almost. You open this big latch, and you're like, okay, I just go in there, and you close it, and I get out when I'm done.
Wow.
So that's what it looks like. But yeah, there's got to be some safety measures, I imagine. But
because
I'm looking forward to it. I'm so excited.
That ought to be incredible. I can't wait to hear about it. Because
hack your brain, man.
Yeah,
it's about hacking your brain,
which
is what podcasting is. That's the main reason I do this is for ideas.
Yeah.
Like, let's see. I want your ideas. You might walk away from this thinking, oh man, good. I talked some shit out. I got some ideas now.
Yeah.
I got some. I just sitting there talking, conversation, and it just you plant the seed. Yeah. That's what podcasting is for me. You just plant a seed and watch it grow. Like, we didn't plan what we were going to talk about today.
No, not at all.
We just start talking.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Wow.
You're going to an isolation tank.
This sounds great because like you said about being in the woods when it's the winter and no one's around and this probably is close and it's absolutely dead quiet. Nobody has that in their life. You can't do that at home. You can be alone in your house with all the doors closed and the windows, closed and the curtains drawn. But there's the humming noise of the furnace. There's the sound of a car door slamming outside.
What I'm interested too is the whole floating thing part.
Oh, that's got to
be like even if you're sitting in your house, like you're gonna be standing on something solid. Your body's gonna feel that you're supported and you're on something. You're gonna be aware. But this, I might feel like I'm in outer space.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Have you ever been skydiving?
No.
Okay, I've only gone once. I would love to do it again.
You really should say only gone once. Like, is that something that you really need to do multiple times?
Probably not.
Because most people I know that have done it have only done it once.
Yeah, but I don't think I would ever have my own parachute and do it every weekend. But it was similar to what we're talking about in the sense that when you jump, and I did it in tandem with the instructor strapped to me. You jump. And you're free falling, and that it's not like being in the accident where you it seems like it's taking forever. That really does go by in a second. You just feel this rush of wind in your face, and you barely are aware of what's happening except for the adrenaline pumping. And then the chute opens. Thank God. And once the chute opens, everything goes dead quiet. And fortunately, the instructor, a very wise man, he knew not to intrude on that. It's not like he chats with you all the way down. I'm sure there probably are guys who do that, and I wouldn't, I wouldn't want that. But once the chute opens, the entire world goes absolutely dead quiet and perfectly still. You have no sense that you're moving. You have no sense that you're falling. You can't hear anything. It's like you're perfectly weightless. It's like you're suspended between the air and the sky. And it's probably the closest I've been to this isolation tank experience that, you can see everything and it's beautiful, but you have no sense of where you end and the rest of the world begins.
It's just you and your brain.
Exactly, yeah.
And Earth.
And up until that point, I really didn't understand the mystique of skydiving. I knew that I kind of wanted to do it, and a bunch of friends were doing it, so I went along and did it too. But I'm like there, and they're like, I get it now. I get it now.
At that exact moment?
Yeah.
The feeling?
Yeah.
Was it euphoric? Or was it just at calm?
It wasn't euphoric. The rush was euphoric. But then once you kind of settle into just being lowered by the parachute, which is so imperceptible, you're not aware it's happening. It's just like this feeling like all is right with the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine. So it's hyper. You're dealing with in that 10-minute stretch of flying in a loud airplane.
Oh yeah,
the door
which is
opens.
the loudest. It's the loudest, scariest airplane you'll ever be in, and you're kind of relieved to jump because it feels a lot safer. Yeah, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just imagining that it's hyper loud. There's anxiety before you're jumping, and
Oh,
you're like, oh, am I doing this? I'm for real doing this, right?
Yeah.
Should I not do this? Should I back out? And then it gets loud, and they open the door and it gets louder. Then you walk up to your turn to jump,
exactly it.
and then you're like, oh shit, it's even louder. Oh god, this is terrifying. You hear the engines, you hear the winds, you look down, you're freaking. Or if you could look down at that point, they make you look down. You're in front. You're ahead of the guy.
You pretty much have to look down.
Okay,
yeah. You pretty much have to look down.
You jump out, and it's wind, wind.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, parachute, and then after
It's just perfect serenity. I've never known what the word serenity really was until that moment. Yeah.
So why haven't you done it again?
I don't know. Maybe I'm afraid that the second time wouldn't be as good as the first. Maybe I'm afraid it was a once in a lifetime thing.
I'm gonna get you the name of the isolation place.
Oh yeah, I'd love to try it.
Maybe you want my feedback first.
I would love to hear about it. Yeah, hear what you
Yeah.
do. Because right now my only. Okay, you're a Britcom fan, as I am. Do you remember that there's an Absolutely Fabulous has an isolation tank episode?
I know that. No, I don't. I haven't seen that episode.
Oh, where Adina, the Jennifer Saunders character, because she jumps on every trend, she buys an isolation tank for her bedroom, and she gets in it, and then it turns out the whole episode is just her mind fantasizing while she's in the isolation tank, and the whole episode is like the whole everything's turned upside down.
I feel like it's probably still at this point something that people kind of poke fun at. Like I think 20 years ago, people like yoga.
Oh yeah.
20 years ago, you do yoga?
Yeah.
What? That's so weird.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do yoga? Like, that's such a strange thing to do. And there's so many things like that
or
over time.
growing herbs.
Yeah, you make your own sweaters. Like now you find somebody does, you're like, whoa, that's pretty dope, man. That's awesome. You have your own chickens, all that shit.
Yeah.
Like I remember growing up with kids whose parents didn't have TV and they didn't watch TV. I was like, that's the weirdest thing in the world. But now I look back at that, I'm like, what great parents. What awesome. Like you made your kids go do stuff and think.
Well,
so I think like isolation
that can be a handicap.
I think it could. But like the fact that an isolation take is like kind of like on a British comedy. But it is kind of make fun of like what kind of weirdo would go into a room in complete silence? What kind of hippy dippy bullshit is that?
It would be this trendy idiot on this show. Yeah.
But now I think
it's more mainstream. Yeah, it's
because the internet, the information is out. It's hard to poke fun at things. Like no, this stuff really helps people. Like a lot of creative people I've heard talk about the isolation tanks. They're like inspiration comes from there. My best ideas come from there. Best ideas personally, professionally, whatever ideas are. So I'm like, there's got to be something to it.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that I'm seeing one open. I'm like, okay, this is mainstream.
Well, now there are two apparently.
There's two.
Yeah, which is terrific. Yeah, it's going to become more mainstream.
Tell me that 10 years ago.
I'm going to make a prediction. 30 years from now, everyone will have one in their house.
We should.
Yeah.
Right. Like if it turns out it works. Like
I'm not sure if that would ever happen though, because so many people are afraid of quiet, and so many people are afraid of isolation.
That's a very, very good point, and it's something that I've discussed with friends of mine and family of mine. I'm like, why can't you just be like? There was a friend I went camping with last year, and I don't think he's ever been camping. And we would just be sitting by the fire, and that's where I just like sit back and it's just quiet time. Like other times I would be with a friend or something, other friends. And we would just sit there. We wouldn't say words for half an hour. We'd just be putting wood onto the fire, and it'll be that zen moment. And it's comfortable being quiet. But I had a friend who I went camping with last year. This kid, he wouldn't be quiet. He couldn't stop. He had to say something. It would be like a 10-second, 20 seconds, and that was too much quiet for him. Too much isolation.
Had to fill the space.
Yeah, like he didn't like he felt thoughts coming in his brain, and it made him uncomfortable. And I asked him about that. I was like. And of course, I tried my best to not make it seem like I was saying, "Hey, shut up." But I was like, "Hey, man, why can't you just let it be quiet? You seem like you're really uncomfortable when things get quiet, and you just have to keep." Because it wouldn't even be saying anything; it would just be a sound, like a like something like that. Like that's a quote. That's exactly how he would sound. I'm like, can you just just try to be quiet? Try not to say anything for 5 minutes.
Or fill it with the tuneless whistle.
He would whistle as well, like just the mindless noise. And I actually see it with other people too. Carlene does it sometimes too. If we're driving in the car, she has to make a sound because we don't always have the radio on or something. And I'm very comfortable in the quiet, and it seems like a lot of people are not. And I don't know what that is. Why don't people like the quiet?
I don't know. Are they people who are afraid of their own thoughts?
Probably.
Or are we just so conditioned in this world to constant noise and constant outside stimulation that we can't live without it?
We've gotten so used to it.
Yeah.
It's these things, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially these things
Or
make
even
it
just,
hard to be quiet.
So many people, especially people who live alone, will just, and my mother was one of them. I mean, my mother had the television on all day and all night. She wasn't watching it, it was just on.
This is a very good point. This friend lives alone.
Yeah. She would turn the TV on in the morning when she got up, and she'd watch, the Today Show or whatever. And then the TV would just stay on until she went to bed at night. And occasionally she would sit down and watch a show. But otherwise it was just droning on, and it was just to provide background noise. And I think there are a lot of people like that.
That's very interesting. You just reminded me. This is something that I feel, I don't know if I was ahead of my time, or Carlene and I were ahead of our time, but we cut our cable cord like a decade ago. Like way before anybody else. Like everybody's like a lot of people are tuning out now. Like just like I don't need TV. I just, people have sub Netflix and stuff like that, or their phones, YouTube, and that's their source of noise. But 10 years ago, before that was really easy to, like, you couldn't even get YouTube on your TV back then, or Netflix was still just a delivery service at that point. So I was like, I recognized, and I told her, I said, every time we come into this room, we turn the TV on. And we just have it on. Like, we wake up in the morning, like you described your mom, you just turn the TV on.
I'm guilty of that,
and
too. Not every day, but sometimes I do. Yeah. If it's just a day when I just don't feel like being alone with my thoughts.
And it feels good.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like, it feels good. You feel like that stimulation, it kind of occupies your brain, and it's just nice to not have, it's nice to hear something that might catch your attention. Like, oh, what? Patrick Swayze? What? Like, or whatever kind of silliness is on the TV. It's like, okay, good, I can think about that now. But I recognized that about 10 years ago. I said, when we walk into this room, we just have the TV on. And what I crave is conversation. And when we have the TV on, we don't converse. So let's just cut the cable. Let's just not get cable anymore. Let's just have internet and see where that goes. And then immediately, there was no need to turn the TV on anymore. And still to this day, the TV is hardly ever on until like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, when we're like winding down, time to watch a documentary or a Netflix movie or whatever it is, whatever we're up to. But we go through entire days sometimes where the TV never gets turned on because there's not that draw. Like, you just turn on the TV, especially when it's cable, there's going to be something. Something on to feel, even if it's just weather. Yeah. Like, we should just have the weather channel.
There's always the History Channel.
The History Channel or Weather Channel.
Right.
So just keep that on. You're gonna find something that probably interests you, or that you can talk about or think about, other than your own thoughts.
Or my dad, when he was alive, it was the military channels. Like the military channel, or the History Channel, the military channel. What my nephew Devin, as a child, used to refer to as the Hitler Channel.
The History Channel?
The Hitler Channel. Because it was just always, nonstop documentaries.
World War II movies all the time, yeah.
Always watching Hitler again.
Yeah, and I think you're right, though. There's something about people just want that noise, which is why I think, like, because from the day I've been born, my mind has never turned off the sensory shit. So I think that first 10, 15, 20 minutes, my mind might be confused. Like, I might panic. Like, I don't know, but I'm prepared just to fight through it. I'm like, okay, you got to get through this. Like, stay this hour. And maybe if I can't do the hour, do at least 45 minutes. Right. But I think the first time might be a little shaky.
What do you book, an hour session?
Yeah, I guess it's an hour session. It's like $40 for an hour. So
that's not bad.
No, I think my gift card was like $100 for 3. So it was even less than that.
Oh, wow.
But I'll give you a little feedback, but just like, I won't tell you what to expect. I just be like, I think you should do it.
Well, just let me know. Yeah, I think just let me know whether it was a worthy experience, or whether it was,
You got to write a new play. I want you to write a new play.
At some point. Okay.
So you're not feeling inspired right now?
I'm still waiting for the voices. I honestly, I hate to sound that metaphysical, but it's really, I've tried before, just sitting down and trying to put something, but I got to wait for the little voices to start. And I haven't heard the little voices in a while.
Do you still read a lot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I got a ton of movies and DVDs for Christmas, which was nice. Because my sister always says to me, we need to know what to get you. And I said, well, I don't know. And she said, don't tell me I don't know. Tell me what you want. And so I always put together a list of books and movies and TV shows I'd like to have. And I always tell her, and don't go out and pay retail. Go on to eBay. Get me the used DVDs, the used books. I don't care. But what did you get for Christmas, by the way? Anything good?
I think I'm wearing one of my shirts.
Oh, it's very nice.
I basically get like 2 or 3 shirts and socks.
Yeah.
I really don't like. I don't want to say I don't.
For
like
those
Christmas.
of you at home, Doug is wearing a flannel shirt and a very tasteful brown and tan.
Doing my
and
best.
White patterns. Very attractive.
Doing my best.
Nice job, folks.
Thank you. I don't want to say I don't like Christmas, but that's the easiest way. I don't care for it. I love Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. There's just something about. I try to really be. I don't like presents. I don't like giving them anymore. I don't like getting them. I like cards and I like conversations. I like phone calls.
I like giving presents. I like shopping for people.
Kinda. I like experiences with people. Like my nieces and my nephews, I told them, this has been going on for years, and I'm like, I don't want to send you anything in the mail. I want to wait until we see each other. I could take you someplace. We'll go talk about what is interesting you right now. What do you think we need? Like when I saw my nephew like 6 months ago, went to North Carolina, and he actually was doing not podcasting, but he was playing. You know how those the kids on YouTube, they play their video games and they kind of like talk about like their own action, like this is how you do. He was doing that, and so I got him. We went shopping together, and I got him, and I sent him a once I looked up several different cool ones to get. I got him a headset better than these with a mic on it, so he could talk and do that. I'm like, do that, pursue that, like something useful, because I think I reflect on my own childhood and even just my recent years. Getting gifts that I'm like, oh great, but then it would just like, especially as a little kid, like you're just getting new shit, trying something you like 1 year, and then you never even think about it again. And I'm like, I don't want wasted. There were so many wasted presents I got for that short bit of like happiness of like, oh, you got me something, ooh, and then it goes away. It's not real. So I try to give like experiences, as cheesy as that sounds.
Best thing you can do.
I try to give memories, because my best presents I ever got were like. Hanging out. My Christmas memories are us hanging out and eating.
Yeah, exactly.
And I actually have better Thanksgiving memories than I do Christmas, just because we're all sitting at a table sharing food, telling stories, bullshitting. And I feel like we got to make Christmas more like Thanksgiving. Just Thanksgiving with a couple presents maybe, but nothing like I haven't asked for anything in a long time. But I like Carly and I, we barely get each other gifts. Right. But I got her a nice necklace.
Oh, good.
But which she completely loved, but it was kind of an accident that I got it. But the gift that she got me, it's something that I'm gonna be useful and hopefully useful. I can't wait to report back to you about that isolation tank. I might go do it tomorrow.
That's a great gift. Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not big on gifts because I don't like talking about things. Like I small talk I'm no good with. Talking about things I'm no good with. I like to talk give me your ideas.
Right.
Like that's the best. And this is something that's been I've noticed in me from a very early age, and especially when I started going out to bars and stuff with my friends, like in our 20s, and we go to loud ass bars. We're sitting there drinking, and I'm like, guys, I just want to sit and talk. Can we go someplace? Can we just go to a different place, an Irish pub instead of this club, so we could just sit there and have some Guinness and talk? So it took me a while to recognize, oh. I just want to talk. That's the best gift someone could give me.
That hit me when I quit drinking, which was 25 years ago now. But as you said before that, when I was in my 20s, it was all the loud, noisy bar, and which is great because you don't have to talk, and it helps you not realize what an ass you're making of yourself.
That's right.
But after that, it was just I just would rather just sit and talk with someone. And it's funny, going back to that first play I wrote, Call Me When You Get Home, was basically about two guys who were friends for 20 years, and all they did was sit at a table and talk. And that in a way is kind of, it was based very loosely on my best friend Jim and me, who we've known each other for 30 years. And in the 30 years that Jim and I have known each other, I think we've been to the movies twice. We went to one concert. And I think we've been shopping at the mall maybe 2 or 3 times. And other than that, we don't really actually do anything. We just we sit and we talk. Sometimes we sit in a diner and have coffee and talk, and other times, or at one of our houses, and other times we go out in the woods and we hike and talk. But basically, the entire relationship revolves around not doing anything.
See,
Which
I
is
love
the
it.
best kind of friendship.
Which makes this whole texting revolution and social media revolution especially troublesome for someone like me and you, is that everybody just wants to text.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody. And I'm like, I actually decided about a month or so ago, I was like, I'm not really responding to texts anymore. If somebody's about to text me something, I generally call them now. And nobody's really picked up on that because most of the time people don't pick up the phone because they're like, oh, phone's ringing. What? We're texting right now. But it's that connection. Like you're talking about, same thing. I've had friends who are like, hey, let's go hang out. Let's go to the movies. We haven't seen each other in 3 months. Let's go to the movies. Like, what? We're just going to sit there and just stare at a screen together, not saying anything. We're not talking about anything.
Right.
And it would be really bothersome. So you're saying in 30 years you've gone to 2 movies and basically you just go bro out places. Like have a coffee.
Yes. Yeah.
Basically what we're doing right now.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Which I think is the whole reason I'm gravitating towards, I've discovered, I'm like, this podcast is for me and my friends. That's terrific. This is for me and you right now.
Yes, and like, I'm so glad you invited me. This is so much fun.
Dude, well, how about this? How about...
See, we used to cook and talk like this all day long.
But then they would be cut short. There'd be so many distractions.
Those damn customers.
The customers, just the day would end.
Yes.
And we never could get really deep. But this is a good, like, first scratch surface.
Yes.
How about this? How about, and like, I'm going to do this damn isolation tank a few times. And you should too.
Okay.
And I would love to circle back and
talk
maybe
about
a week
it.
or two after you do it.
I would love to, yes.
And then see if if it's inspired anything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would love to.
Because I would love this. I'm very interested to see my experience in there because once you start hacking your brain and like really listening to it, like, I don't know, I expect to learn a few things. Maybe be enlightened.
Yeah.
I hope so. Or maybe it's going to be bullshit and I'm just like, oh, this is really great for my skin. I'm full of, like, it might be BS.
Well, then you'll learn something. You'll learn, wow, I'm not as deep as I thought.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what? Like, after 5 minutes, like, that's all I have to think about?
Jeez, I thought I was this really deep, profound guy.
It turns out I'm a jackass. All right, brother. This has been fun.
It has been wonderful. We never did get down the JFK rabbit hole, but we'll do that someday.
Dude, see, and that's the beauty of just talking and no plans. It's not just talking about whatever. Mike Meade.
Yep.
Thanks again, brother. We'll do this again in a couple months.
Thank you. This is terrific. I'd love to come back. Absolutely.
All right. Peace out, world, or Doug and Mike in the future, who might be the only ones watching this, which is all the only ones that need to watch it.
For posterity.
You got it. All right, brother.
If Charlton Heston finds us buried in the sand someday.
The truth is, I treat this like a time capsule for me. I want to look back in this 20 years from now and be like, okay, who was I then? Have I evolved? Hopefully I have.
Yeah.
Hopefully I look back, I'm watching this right now 20 years from now and be like, God damn, what an idiot. Like, hopefully that's the case. I want to progress.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah. Because if you look at yourself now, just think of what the thoughts I had in my brain even just 10, 15 years ago. Like, God damn, what an idiot I was. I wish I recorded that so I could see what a dummy I was. So now just memories, I'm like, God damn, I can't believe I used to believe that bullshit.
Yeah.
How dumb was I?
And this has been so cool for me sitting here in front of the microphone, wearing the headphones. This is like being back in my old radio DJ days back in the 80s.
Wait, you were really a radio DJ?
I was a reporter, actually. But I did some DJ stuff, too. Yeah.
We're going to circle back to that.
We'll get back to that someday. Did I ever tell you that? Okay.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
See you later, world.
Bye.
Bye. This was so fun, man.
It was.
This was so fun.
Wow.